Hey mom friends, it's Kate and Kristen, and we're back calling it out, talking all things motherhood.
The everyday things and the things no one talks about.
We're going all in, so get comfy and join the chat as we talk about kids, chaos, relationships, and expectations, and how hard being a mom really is.
Yeah. Whether you're up late with a newborn or dealing with the challenges of the teen years, you're not alone.
MomTalk, calling it out, is your new go-to spot where motherhood meets understanding, support, and practical advice from therapists, moms, and friends. So we're here this morning to talk about sleep, and I think it's the funniest day that we're going to do this because we had such a rough go. Our almost 2-year-old woke up before 5 o'clock today, and every strategy that I have to employ, there was no going back to sleep at this time. I don't know where you guys are from, but our sun is just starting to rise earlier, and it was just like slightly light out, and all she kept saying was dun dun dun, and like I was telling Kate earlier, like all you hear is her sleep sack unzipping, and I was like, oh no. So as we go into talking about sleep and sleep tips and some of the strategies that we use, I think it's really important to remember, even though you have all the information and you are putting it together in your home flawlessly, kids are still kids, and there are so many pieces of factors, right, that kind of compound and come together to really solidify, are you having a good sleep, or are there going to be some sleep interruptions, early wakes, things like that. And as we do kind of provide content, whether it's today or other days, I think it's a really nice reminder that between the two of us, we have 5 little kids, and we are definitely in the thick of this all with you. So as we talk about sleep, know that I am exhausted. I was up before 5 o'clock today because it was just one of those days. I don't know. And I think we're going to start talking a little bit about routines and sleep routines, bedtime routines, and how really important that is. So a little bit about our routines. I think in a lot of the moms that I've worked with, routines can be really daunting because I don't know why or where the messaging comes from, but they have to be like these big, long...
Yeah, like you have to start an hour before.
Right, okay. This is not what we are talking about when we're talking about sleep routines. We are talking more about just a consistent pattern of things.
It's that signal to your kids that we're starting to get ready for bed, both in terms of them like understanding, okay, I have to start getting ready for bed, and beat their bodies to be like, okay, I'm going to start preparing for rest, right?
Yeah, it's like a priming. We want to prime. And I mean, we should be doing that as adults also.
Yeah.
Think of like your own routine, like you brush your teeth, maybe you change into pajamas, you might wash your face, maybe you have a shower before bed. Like that couple of things is a sleep routine. So when we're thinking about this, let's not get too over involved. It's just a couple consistent things. So like in our family, our kids go to bed relatively early. So we have dinner, we go upstairs for a bath, they put on pajamas, do teeth. My older daughter reads a book, the younger one nurses, and that's that. If things are late or whatever, we might remove the bath, but the other things stay the same, so it's still priming them for sleep. So being as consistent as possible, I always find really helpful. Yeah. What do you guys do?
So I have a 4-year-old and a 1 and a 2-year-old. So my 4-year-old's a little different. For him, he goes to bed a little bit later, but still early. He's in bed by 7:30. So his routine is he does have a bath every night. So we go up, we do bath, and then he has home reading, which is part of his kindergarten program. So he does his home reading. He does his, he gets to choose 2 like fun reading books. We call them storybooks. And then teeth, pajamas, and bed. For my babies, a little different. We give them a milk downstairs after dinner. They all play for a bit, and then the babies get a bottle of milk each, or a cup for my older one. And then they know when milk is done, and that's when we go upstairs. And then we don't even do bath for them at night. They do baths during the day. So for them, it's just go upstairs, pajamas. We read each of them a book and songs, and then lights out. I mean, it's probably 10 minutes total.
Yeah, I would say if we don't bath, it's about 10 minutes. And then if we do bath, it stretches. It's like,
yeah, of course, which
you
is
can
why we
tell.
actually stopped doing the baby's bath at night, because it just wasn't soothing for anybody. So they get bathed during the day because they're home. But for my 4-year-old, it does work. So I think, again, it's that idea that not every routine works for everybody. Like,
For sure.
what fits for you, what fits for your kids,
Absolutely.
what fits for your schedule. But don't let it be an added stress.
Right. It's those things you're gonna do anyways, right? It doesn't have to, like, it's not an hour. Please don't spend an hour doing this. That is so stressful. Make it just quick and simple. Of those few tasks you have to do them in the same order every time. And that is a really well-established sleep routine. And if you have like a younger kids who are napping still, pulling like a couple elements. So like my younger daughter still wears a sleep sack. So putting on the sleep sack, turning on the sound machine, like even those 2 prompts, let's say from my nighttime routine we use during the day, and that is enough for our bedtime sleep routine.
Yeah, and same with us. For my the 2 little ones who still nap, they get like 3 books for bedtime, but like 1 book for nap. So it's still the same routine, but it's just shorter, right?
Yeah.
Like,
make it shorter, make it easy, especially with little ones. You're doing it multiple times a day,
Yeah.
so it just can't take that long. I know the other thing we were talking about recently, especially, I don't know, with summer coming, maybe people are doing more socially or holidays and events, that there can be a lot of pressure to not maintain bedtimes and sleep routines from family, friends, whatever, wherever you are. And the best that we can, we want to try and maintain these, especially like for us, we go to the cottage and, you know, it's a little bit looser, give or take like half an hour or so for us. But my kids still go to bed really early, even at other times, or if we're out or having family gatherings, like it's kind of all planned so it ends pretty much at bedtime. And like for us, what I find really interesting is maybe because our bedtime is very well established, like if we're having people over at our house, my older daughter will be like, okay, I'm done. And she'll like go upstairs, even though there's like people and things still happening in the house. For her, like she's primed to go to bed at a certain time after dinner. And she just does. Do you have this?
Yeah, and I think for me, like when I had my first baby, like this was one of the toughest things, was setting boundaries around this, because at the time, my husband and I were the only ones that had little babies in our family, or like a baby. And so the structure of family events and things like that weren't really catered to babies, understandably. And we were really struggling, and I was having a lot of stress, like, is it worth letting them stay? You know, all the different messages, like, oh, it's just one time, let them stay up, or oh, it's okay if they don't nap, or they'll just they'll just put them on the floor and they'll fall asleep. And you know, and as a new mom, I was like, well, maybe that's okay. I didn't know, right? And I felt very overwhelmed. I mean, obviously, a lot of time has gone by, and I've had more kids, and I feel much. It's much less stressful for me. So now my husband and I we cater to our kids' sleep schedule. We go to things before or after naps. Our days are kind of split. We do go to family events, but we're often the first people to leave. Again, we have some flexibility, half an hour here, half an hour there. Sometimes we're getting the kids in their pajamas and things like that at the event. And then as soon as we get home, they get their bottle of milk and a book. So we kind of try to amend. And I think it's different. Like, I feel more stressed about it with my babies than I do with my 4-year-old. Like, I do think that your kid's age plays a role in that. Absolutely. In terms of how flexible they can be. And I also think it's your individual kid. Like, some kids probably can just fall asleep on your lap at an event and they're fine, and other kids are going to be very overstimulated and it's not going to be okay for them. And so I think as a parent, you know your kid, you know if it feels okay for you, but it just comes down to like, sorry, like we are leaving at 7. And sometimes that actually means that my husband and I don't even eat dinner at events. Because we leave before it even starts, and we just go home. We just know that. We bring food for the kids, and we just know that, and that's just started to be okay for us. And I know it'll change as our kids get older. But for now, the boundaries are really important.
For sure. And I think that leads into another good point of like knowing your kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, some kids might be a little bit more flexible. They still sleep, where I know my older daughter is pretty sensitive to sleeping, where if she goes to bed too late, we already wake up pretty early, but she'll wake up really
And then you're
early.
in that cycle of overtiredness.
And then she's super overtired and cranky in those first few hours of the morning when you know you should be sleeping, and now you're like being yelled at by a little person all morning because they should be sleeping but they're not sleeping because of all, like, for her, like, it just isn't
a good
it's
fit.
just not a good fit. Where my younger one's a little bit more flexible, I think. Like, she's very easy to nap on the go. She'll still go to bed. We do get some early rises like today, but my older one was just never like that. Like, she really needed the routine. And I think, thinking of, if any of you have like little babies, I remember getting stuck in this trap myself with my first, was like wake windows and routines and apps and, like, you know, the app says your baby should be napping now, and then we would like go up for a nap and then she wasn't napping, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like, if she's not napping, then the app's gonna say we need another nap, and then we're gonna miss the nap and we're not gonna this was the most stressful thing ever. So I think one of our big sleep tips here is understanding wake windows and like the number of hours kids on average are sleeping is good information.
It's
to
like a guide.
have.
It's a guide.
Yes, but get to know your own individual child, because your kid will be different from all the other kids. And then if you have like second and third or more kids, like, they'll be different from the first one and the third one. So it's really, how do you tune in and really get to know your child, how much sleep they need, and follow their own rhythm through the day. Once I started doing that with my second, like, oh my gosh, naps are so great and easy. Where with my first, they were the most stressful things, and it was like, no, we can't leave, we can't be late, I have to be at the house, we can't do that. Like, it was just so stressful. And I find that it's because I found it overwhelming, where I was told constantly this is what it should look like, whether it was from people or social media or, you know,
Sleep
I don't
sites
recommend this, but don't Google things. But you start Googling things and all of this information, and it was just like, I was just stressed and upset about sleep all the time. And I feel like I was like, she's a bad sleeper, and I was like, no, I'm a stressed out person, and I think I'm ruining this for both of us. Where that different approach with my second is now, like, they're at a play farm today, and I think the plan is she's just gonna sleep in the stroller if she's tired enough, or she'll sleep in the car on their way back. And that's great.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important part, right, is getting to know your own child. And I think that is really hard with your first, because you don't know if you're gonna know, like, am I doing this right? Like, maybe I'm missing things, right? And so part of it is a confidence and a learning piece, but it is just reminding yourself that you probably do know, right? So yeah, the wake windows and things is a helpful guide for somebody who's never had a baby before. Like, oh, I didn't know babies should only be awake for a roughly 45 minutes. Okay. But if I'm noticing my baby is tired at 30 minutes, okay, well, that's an individual piece to my baby. That's okay. But so it is using that information in a way that helps kind of contain your understanding around sleep, but not to the point where it's so rigid or it goes against kind of your kid's actual sleep needs.
Absolutely. And I feel like this is a whole other video of just that pressure of information and feeling so
too much
inundated by all of this information and everything we should be doing, even if it doesn't align with us. And I think that's another important piece with sleep is, I mean, this sleep is $1 billion industry, right? Infant sleep. And there's all these different methods and frameworks and opinions about where kids should sleep, when kids should sleep, how kids should sleep, what we're teaching them. Are we teaching, like, I mean, you name it, there's a polarized view on it. And I think one of the biggest takeaways for even myself in my learning was doing what fits for your family, right? I think having a young baby and toddler, kids wake up. Kids are not, like Kate said it earlier, they're not robots, right? They're just not going to fit in the script of whatever, you know, sleep framework that you align with. And it's really about, how do we as a family get the most sleep? And does that mean for some people they're co-sleeping? Maybe that's how we're getting the most sleep. I'm kind of in this place where it doesn't matter where they're sleeping as long as they're sleeping, because that means I am sleeping. where there are other families, like for you to be sleeping and them to be sleeping, they need to be sleeping in their space.
Yeah.
And that is okay. And we need to kind of check in with ourselves
Yeah.
to say,
doesn't matter what other people are doing.
right? Who cares what other
works
people
for
are doing?
us. Yeah.
If we're being safe and if you're getting sleep and they're getting sleep,
Yeah.
then that's what we encourage that you do. So even our sleep tips and stuff, if you're like, if that is never gonna work,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
don't do it.
Yeah.
We're talking about general and averages, and I think the most important tip is really learning what feels right for you and what gets you guys the most sleep, because I mean, you're probably exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. You're
Yeah.
tired, right? So
Chronic feeling.
oh, it just never goes away. So like, how do you support yourself best? Getting the most sleep. And if one way or another really aligns or feels best for you, then that's really what you should do for your family, despite kind of all the noise around you around that. So maybe we'll leave you with that. And I think we'll come back and talk about all the information around us as moms, maybe next time. Like,
Yeah.
as soon as you find out you're pregnant, do you notice your social media knows too? And
Yes.
then like all of the ads and the stuff and all these things that you need, and like, oh. Okay, new video next time. But for now, I hope everyone's getting some good sleep.
Yeah.
Let's see you soon.
Bye.